What's going on, everybody? This one's specifically for Johan. He asked about hydrogen peroxide, fear and anxiety, and changing frequencies. I don't know if I'm going to cover everything you asked for in this one. I'm just going to cover the hydrogen peroxide because I want to get into the fear and anxiety with breathing patterns in another video. I've done it before in an earlier video, but I guess I'll address that and go through the brain waves and how to change things there. Um, but this hydrogen peroxide is very simple. Do you breathe? Yes. So putting more oxygen in your system is going to do exactly what you would do when you hyperventilate. You're adding more oxygen, which is increasing oxidation of things, which can cause a problem in your body if you do it too much. Like if you put too much hydrogen peroxide, it's going to be breaking down more things in your body. So it's just like removing things from a river. If you start throwing a bunch of things in a river all at once, you could clog up and dam up that river. So there's a great use for it. It's obviously oxygenating and pulling apart everything that you don't need in your body. It can cause a lot of problems because people overuse it, and now you have things trying to get out the pores of your skin. You're trying to move things out of your organs and these tiny little veins and pipe and all these workings throughout your system. And the more stuff that you put into it, the more your body's going to have to function to get it out. People might end up with maybe get acne, maybe obviously more diarrhea. There's all sorts of things that could occur, but it's obviously a good practice. It's a good use. Um, and this goes into even that idea of ionized water and why you shouldn't be using it because there's more hydrogen in it. It's not H2O anymore. H2O is water. Hydrogen peroxide is water with more oxygen in it. And so it's the idea of breathing is all you can think about. Like, could you breathe more? Is breathing bad? No, it's not bad. And even if you get into the Wim Hof breathing method, we'll talk about for a second, which is basically getting past the point of thinking you're going to hyperventilate and thinking you're going to pass out and breathing through that. And you'll get to the other side and you go, oh, man, I didn't pass out. I actually didn't pass out. I mean, you could, but you're not going to. I'm not telling anybody to go too hard and make themselves pass out, but you can't hurt yourself. It's like, you see all these you see these parents with these kids, they're going to hold their breath because they want something and they're going to like, oh, don't do that. Like, no, you can't hold your breath until you'd pass out. Your body wouldn't let you. So this idea of using hydrogen peroxide, don't overdo it, and it will definitely help in a cleansing process. Just know that it's speeding something up, and it's going to have a similar effect as to me suggesting to people to use alcohol, as I've gone into alcohol quite a bit in its cleansing properties. And it's just a slightly different idea. But if you think about cleaning your house, how do you clean a window? What would you use on it? You could use vinegar, you could use hydrogen peroxide, and you could use alcohol. Now they're all going to be doing a similar thing in the body. The body is not as completely foreign to you as everybody makes you believe. It's not so sophisticated and complicated. I mean, certainly it is. There's plenty of interesting things, and when you start digging into the body, but it's basically at its most basic level a series of tubes from your mouth to your ass, tubes as your veins, tubes in your bones, your everything is just a system of tubes and pushing things. Your heart valves, everything, and it's how much is in there clogging you up. The mass of food that you're eating clogs up your colon. Then it gets into your blood, and then you have all these different materials, heavy metals, salts, and food particles that get into your blood system and clog you up in different areas. So, yeah, hydrogen peroxide, good idea. Just don't overdo it. And what was the other question? Oh, fear of death, because I guess this would have something to do with hydrogen peroxide. You know, breathe too much and kill yourself. You hyperventilate, um, and getting into brain waves of getting out of depression and fear. Yeah, I'll get into it a little further in another one, but the basic thing here is obviously a fear and anxiety is attached to the future, and depression is attached to the past. That's what they say is if you're anxious, it's, oh no, what's going to happen in the future? And if you're depressed, it's something that's pulling you to the past. These have to do with trigger points and stored memory. So most of depression is coming out of stored memory, and I've talked about this in other videos, and what trigger points are and what eating does. So if you have a certain thought process, say you're staring at the television and you're eating some food and you're thinking about how bad your day was, now you're releasing chemicals from your brain that are binding with, so all of those neurotoxins and whatever's going on in your brain, whatever's coming out of your brain as chemicals are now getting wound up with whatever food particles in your system, and if you don't digest them and push them through your system right then your body holds on to them as fat molecules, as cancers, as anything else. So that literally is holding a memory in there. The water is holding the memory of whatever was going through your head there. It's a holographic reference point to something. So now it's held somewhere in your body. So that is going to be, related to depressing someone, to the past. So by pushing those things out with massage and with even using hydrogen peroxide and different urine and everything else that we speak about using to clean out the temple in the body, you get rid of depression, you get rid of anxieties. And so that the fear of the future has something to do with your brainwave patterns. So you get into the 4 brainwave patterns: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Delta being deep sleep and healing. So you don't dream, you're just healing. And then you have your theta, which is above that, when you're lucid in your dreams. And then you have your waking alpha, and then your beta. And most of what's happening when you're watching TV and going through life, you start doing a breathing pattern, and you're getting into a brainwave pattern of a very high beta, and it's frantic. And so that the anxiousness, that fear, is based in that brainwave pattern. And you also are going to release your fight or flight chemicals. And so now that's running through your system. And that might get bound with toxins too. That might get bound with food particles. And all of a sudden there's actually anxiety attached to that. So when you're releasing that at another time, you might feel that. But certainly the idea of getting out of those high brain waves of alpha and beta, mostly beta, getting out of that beta brainwave and getting yourself down to an alpha brainwave by breathing differently and breathing. See, now you can also, I guess I'm kind of getting into this wholly here, but you can also release brainwaves. You can also release things in your body by going back into those brainwaves. You can specifically put yourself into a beta brainwave. You could specifically put yourself into a delta brainwave to go and access these things while you're awake. So that way you can process them and kind of see them happening. So there's that going on. So what we want to do is really change our consciousness about our breath and how important breathing is. So are we breathing in the nose and out of the mouth? And what's that doing? Here's the most basic way to think about it for everyone. If you're having a very mentally anxious day, it's because all of your breathing is up into your head. It's in the nose. So you're breathing all of that oxygen into the head. So you're enlivening the head. So if you wanted to pull that energy down, you would breathe in the nose and out of the mouth. And it would pull the energy. You're literally pulling the energy out of, it's looping down and out of your mouth, and it's pulling energy down. So now if you were very depressed in the other direction, you would take a breath in the mouth and then out of the nose. So now you're pulling energy up. It's that simple. And those things, again, go into the 4 mudras and your 4 brainwave patterns with your fingers. And it's called BAT-D. That's the way to remember it. Beta, alpha, theta, delta. Or D-tab on the other hand. Delta, theta, alpha, beta. Right? So from your thumb to your pinky, the thumb to your ring finger, to your middle finger, the next one. Now those each have positive, negative charges back and forth. But that's an extra level to doing it. So the most basic thing is to be aware of the breathing patterns. And what does that all have to do with the breathing and fear of death even? Anxiety over dying. Well, I mean, once people get out of body, once you've been out of body enough, you kind of, that fear of death kind of starts to vanish pretty quickly, because you're like, oh. And then if you actually are participating in multiple levels of life and have maybe more than one life going on, then this one looks just like any other one. I mean, that will take a little while for most people to get to that point. But when you start seeing the vibrations of each one of your bodies, and so when you go to bed at night, like you waking up in this dream, while in that dream you're waking up in this dream, while you're waking up in this reality, and vice versa. It doesn't. You're not going to be separating the two. So then there's a way of actually breathing to get yourself into different states of being. So the anxiousness that happens of being on this planet, that has to do with the kind of foods we eat, the things we consume, and the breathing patterns, the heightened beta brain waves, keeps us locked into fear, which keeps us in this body, which keeps us from getting out of body. And you're not going to get out of body in a beta or an alpha brainwave. You're just not going to do it. So when you get into the theta delta area, it's a very slow rhythmic vibration. And it's calm, relaxed, and all of a sudden your brainwave is telling your body that everything's cool, and your spirit body, which is vibrating differently, can get out of your body. And so that whole idea of what death is, death of the body versus death of the spirit, well, and one doesn't happen. The body could die. I mean, then again, we talk about how you could keep this body for as long as you like if you knew how to prepare it, how to put it into order. So you get out of all of these mental, physical, emotional, spiritual dramas and dilemmas by cleansing your temple. That thereby you can vibrate differently, and when you vibrate differently, you're in different brain waves, and when you're in different brain waves, you have a different spectrum of reality, and then you're able to actually manifest differently. You're able to use different powers, and as I was talking about in the last video, you correct everything by correcting your internal environment. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, this peace and just think good thoughts. Well, that's the idea, but when those things are attached to literal karma, arkma, the carnivore, as I've always said, it's connected to a physical manifestation and what you're putting in your body. The thing that should be on the earth is now in your body, and it's causing your body and your organs to not vibrate right. And your ability to manifest is different. So by cleansing everything out of your body, you're able to, balance yourself left and right and up and down. And the whole sense of your reality becomes, it would be balanced. It'd be more akin to what you would like to see. It will change what you see. It'll change what you hear, how you hear. So fear of death. I think more people have a fear of life because they've been so, I've talked about this too. When people are vibrating at a certain level, and this has to do with staying up at night and even urine therapy, and even fasting, because what people start to do when they've fasted, especially on juices, they don't understand the energy. What they think it is anxiousness, but they don't have anything to do, so they feel all this energy and they want to do something, and they think that's hunger. They're like, oh, I'm just hungry. But they actually have energy. And that energy that you have, if you don't attach it to the idea of actually having hunger and wanting to put something in you to weigh you down, to fool you, to make you full, then it's your perception of what energetic values are changed. And see that energy can sometimes be confused with anxiety, because people that have been on a low, depressed state and a vibratory state that's a certain level, extra energy is weird. Extra energy can be very confusing, especially like if you're up all night. Anybody that's you could talk to Wiley Schmidt about this. You could talk to a lot of people. When you've really been fasting on urine, it's hard to sleep because you're vibrating. You have energy, so you better have. And then now if you don't have things to do, all of a sudden you're looking around like, should I eat something? Oh, I should probably just eat because I need to get to sleep. But now but what you've done is you've opened up so much time. You've opened up the time that you were going to be preparing food. You open up the time from, going to the store and shopping. You open up the time of driving there. You open up the currency and the energy on a physical as well as a fiat currency level of how much money did you have to go to the store and spend. Well, now your currency is all freed up there because you're you're recycling yourself, and so the whole system opens up, and you're running on next to nothing. But now you're running on imagination, and you're running on fuel of stem cells and your own personal, source of energy, of light, of life. So then your perception of what life is, what death is, what energy is starts to change rapidly as you get things out of your body, especially cleaning your colon. Clean your colon and it'll change everything. Then all of a sudden all of your organs start vibrating differently. Then at night you can start to hear them. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I hope that answered some of the questions. And if you want more specifics, let me know. Once again, hit the buttons, subscribe, and say you like this if you did, and put these videos out there. If there's anything else that you want me to talk about, if you know somebody that has an idea, if you know somebody that has a problem or something that they need assistance with, or you want me to speak on something a little bit, I'll make a video and you can just send it their way. Or you can just put it in front of them. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers, y'all.